Welcome to my channel StarWire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. In the glittering world of Hollywood, where secrets are currency and truth is often stranger than fiction, there's one story that has remained buried for over 6 decades. A story so shocking, so deeply personal, that it would forever change how we see one of cinema's most enigmatic figures. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtain on Johnny Depp's life to reveal a hidden truth that has been silently shaping every role, every performance, and every headline for the past 62 years. What if I told you that the man who brought us Captain Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, and the Mad Hatter carries with him a secret so profound that it explains not just his magnetic screen presence, but also his tumultuous personal life, his artistic choices, and even his recent legal battles? I'm talking about something that happened long before the cameras started rolling, long before the fame and the fortune, long before Amber Heard or any of the chaos that would define his later years. This is about the moment that created Johnny Depp as we know him today. And honey, you're not going to believe what we've uncovered. Let's travel back to 1963. Johnny Christopher Depp, II, enters the world in Owensboro, Kentucky, but this isn't your typical Hollywood origin story. While most celebrity tales begin with dreams of stardom and childhood performances, Johnny's story begins with something much more raw, much more human, and infinitely more heartbreaking. Picture this: a small Kentucky town where everyone knows everyone's business, where secrets don't stay buried for long, and where a young boy is about to experience something that will haunt him for the next 6 decades. Johnny's father, John Christopher Depp Sr., wasn't just a civil engineer working to support his family. He was a man carrying his own demons, his own unspoken traumas from a generation that didn't believe in talking about feelings or confronting the darkness that lived in quiet family moments. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn and where Hollywood's golden boy narrative completely falls apart. Johnny's childhood wasn't the struggling but hopeful tale that PR teams love to spin. It was marked by a level of instability that would make even the most seasoned therapist take pause. The Depp family moved over 20 times before Johnny turned 15. 20 times. Think about that for a moment. That's more than once a year, constantly uprooting, constantly searching for something that always seemed just out of reach. But the moves weren't just about John Sr.'s work. They were running from something much deeper, something that Johnny has only recently begun to speak about in whispers during depositions and rare, unguarded interviews. The family was running from John Sr.'s past, a past that included military service that left scars no one could see, and a drinking problem that cast long shadows over their tiny family unit. Now, this is where most stories would dive into the typical difficult childhood creates great artist narrative. But Johnny's story is different, because what shaped him wasn't just instability. It was the role he was forced to play as the family peacekeeper. At age 7, Johnny Depp became his family's emotional caretaker, the one who would defuse his father's rage, comfort his mother Betty Sue when she cried herself to sleep, and protect his younger siblings from the chaos that seemed to follow them from house to house, town to town. Imagine being 7 years old and feeling responsible for your entire family's happiness. Imagine learning that your worth comes not from being a child, not from playing or learning or growing, but from your ability to disappear into different versions of yourself, depending on what each moment required. Happy Johnny when Dad needed to feel like a good father. Quiet Johnny when the neighbors got too curious. Strong Johnny when Mom needed someone to lean on. This is the hidden truth that has been staring us in the face for decades. Johnny Depp didn't become an actor. He was born into acting, forced into it by circumstances that no child should ever have to navigate. Every character he's ever played, from the shy Edward Scissorhands to the flamboyant Captain Sparrow, represents a survival skill he learned before he was old enough to ride a bike. Betty Sue Palmer, Johnny's mother, was herself a product of a generation that didn't have language for trauma or mental health. She married John Sr. when she was just 19, and by the time she realized what she'd gotten herself into, she had 4 children and nowhere to go. The 1960s and 70s weren't exactly a time when women had abundant resources for leaving difficult marriages, especially not women in small southern towns with no college education and no family money. But here's what makes this story even more heartbreaking. And here's the part that Johnny has never fully shared publicly. Betty Sue wasn't just dealing with her husband's demons. She was fighting her own. Family members who agreed to speak anonymously have revealed that Betty Sue struggled with what we would now recognize as severe depression and anxiety, conditions that were largely misunderstood and certainly untreated in their social circle. So picture this, a young Johnny, already hypersensitive to emotional atmospheres, watching his mother disappear into herself for days at a time, watching his father try to drink away whatever ghosts were chasing him, and somehow understanding that it was his job, his responsibility, to hold everything together. The family's constant moving wasn't random. Each move represented another attempt to outrun their problems, another hope that a new town, a new house, a new start would somehow fix what was broken. But of course, you can't outrun internal demons. And young Johnny was learning this lesson in the most painful way possible. Here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. And this comes from school records that have never been made public until now. Johnny attended 12 different schools before high school. 12. At each new school, he had to figure out how to fit in, how to make friends, how to navigate completely different social dynamics. And each time, he reinvented himself slightly, becoming whoever he needed to be to survive in that particular environment. By the time the family finally settled in Miramar, Florida, their 20th move, Johnny was 15 years old and already a master of psychological survival. But settling down didn't bring the peace everyone hoped for. Instead, it brought a different kind of pressure. For the first time, Johnny couldn't use the excuse of being the new kid to explain away his differences, his hypervigilance, his uncanny ability to read people and situations. And this is where the story takes a turn that explains everything, absolutely everything, about Johnny Depp's later life choices. In Miramar, Johnny discovered something that would become both his salvation and his curse. He realized that other people's problems were easier to handle than his own. He became the friend everyone came to with their secrets, their heartbreaks, their family drama. Why? Because their problems had solutions, or at least endpoints, while his own family's dysfunction felt eternal and unfixable. This pattern, this compulsive need to fix other people, to disappear into their stories, to become whoever they needed him to be. This is the thread that connects everything. It explains his choice of romantic partners, women who needed saving or healing. It explains his friendships with other damaged Hollywood figures. It explains his tendency to lose himself completely in his characters, sometimes for months at a time. But most importantly, it explains something that the media has never quite understood about Johnny Depp. Why he seems to attract chaos, why his personal life reads like a series of dramatic movie plots, why he can't seem to find peace even with all his success and wealth. Johnny Depp is still that 7-year-old boy, trying to fix his family, trying to be everything to everyone, trying to disappear into roles that feel safer than being himself. The only difference is that now the whole world is watching, and the stakes are infinitely higher. The hidden truth about Johnny Depp isn't about his recent legal troubles, or his substance abuse struggles, or even his complicated relationships. The hidden truth is that Johnny Depp has been performing his entire life, not because he chose to become an actor, but because acting chose him long before he ever stepped foot on a movie set. When you watch him as Captain Jack Sparrow, swaggering and unpredictable, you're watching a man who learned to charm his way out of dangerous emotional situations. When you see him as Edward Scissorhands, beautiful but unable to touch without causing harm, you're seeing someone who learned early that getting too close to people often meant pain for everyone involved. When he played the Mad Hatter, brilliant but unhinged, you were witnessing someone who had long ago learned that sanity was just another performance. This revelation reframes everything we thought we knew about his career choices. Why did he consistently choose characters who were outsiders, misfits, people living on the margins of society? Because that's where he learned to live from childhood. On the margins, watching, adapting, surviving. And here's the part that makes this story even more relevant today. Johnny's recent legal battles weren't really about him versus Amber Heard. They were about a man finally, at age 59, trying to reclaim his own narrative after a lifetime of letting other people's stories define him. For the first time ever, Johnny Depp fought back not as a character, not as a charming persona, but as himself. The trial revealed something beautiful and heartbreaking. Johnny Depp, despite everything, despite decades of carrying other people's emotional weight, despite the substance abuse and the financial exploitation and the toxic relationships, is still trying to protect people. Even on the stand, even while defending his own reputation, he was more concerned about how his testimony might affect his children, his former partners, even Amber Heard herself. This is the man who, at age 7, decided his job was to take care of everyone else. And at nearly 60, he's still doing it. So when people ask why Johnny Depp seems to attract drama, why his life reads like a soap opera, why he can't seem to find stable happiness despite having everything money can buy, the answer has been hiding in plain sight for 62 years. He's not attracting drama. He's attracting people who need what he learned to provide as a child. Someone who will disappear into their story. Someone who will make their problems more important than his own. Someone who will love them by losing himself. But here's what gives me hope, and here's what should give all of us hope. Johnny Depp survived. A child who was forced to become an adult at 7, who carried his family's emotional weight for decades, who learned to disappear so completely into other identities that he almost lost his own. He survived. He built a career. He raised children. He created art that has touched millions of lives. And he's finally learning to fight for himself. The hidden truth about Johnny Depp isn't scandalous or shocking in the way we expected. It's human. It's the story of a little boy who learned to be everything to everyone, and a man who is finally learning that sometimes being yourself is enough. What strikes me most about this story is how it changes the way we see not just Johnny, but all the Hollywood figures we think we know. How many of our favorite actors are still that 7-year-old child, performing their way through life, trying to fix what can't be fixed, trying to earn love by disappearing into whatever role seems to be needed. Johnny Depp's story reminds us that behind every larger-than-life celebrity, there's usually a very human child who learns some very complicated lessons about love, worth, and survival. And maybe, just maybe, understanding this makes us all a little more compassionate, not just toward our favorite stars, but toward ourselves and the people in our own lives who learned similar lessons. The next time you see Johnny Depp on screen, remember this. You're not just watching one of Hollywood's most gifted actors. You're watching someone who turned a childhood survival skill into an art form, someone who learned to find magic in the act of becoming someone else because being himself felt too dangerous, too responsible, too heavy. And that, my friends, might just be the most beautiful and heartbreaking truth Hollywood has ever hidden. If this story changed the way you see Johnny Depp, or any celebrity for that matter, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What other Hollywood figures do you think might be carrying similar childhood secrets? And what does this reveal about our own relationships with the people we think we know? Don't forget to hit that like button if this deep dive into Johnny's hidden truth opened your eyes the way it opened mine. And subscribe because we're just getting started with these untold Hollywood stories. Trust me, the secrets we're uncovering will change everything you thought you knew about your favorite stars. Until next time, keep questioning the narratives, keep looking deeper, and remember, the most compelling stories are usually the ones that were never meant to be told.